Rochester, New York, or that lake thing. But I actually forecasted Columbia, South Carolina, just a brief anecdote, Robert. And it was one of those places that was always on that fine line. Are we going to get rain or are we going to get snow? And the miles matter, that 20 to 40 miles matter. So I want to introduce this all with the fact that we are watching for Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, and you probably have been too, seeing it on social media, computer models being shared that shows some sort of wintry precipitation, a wintry mix. snow in some parts of our first coast and southeast Georgia.
And to stress, thanks for all the nice words there, Lou, but to stress what you're talking about, if people ask me, do you prefer working in Florida versus somewhere like up north? And I tell them time and time again, it is much nicer to forecast here because we don't have to deal with this wintry precip. And as you mentioned, that fine line, because this is the type of forecast that makes or break forecasters. 1 degree difference, and as you said, a couple miles where the low pressure center is can change the difference between sleet, freezing, rain, or snow. So in this video, we're going to talk for the next about 30 minutes about, what the forecast shows right now, the nuances behind it, because I know some of your weather apps are saying it's going to be a blizzard, but there is nuance there to talk about.
Puddle ducky.
Snow
angel, puddle ducky.
But will you be able to make a snow angel, or are you just going to have to worry about cold rain?
I would. That would be. With what we're going to get, I wouldn't want to lay around and.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the case. It's going to be more, maybe a sloppy, muddy, snowy angel, sort of.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the 7-day here, Lou, because we do have the red over the weekend as well.
So weather impact alert days for Saturday, Sunday. That's not going to be for wintry precip. That's just straight up lots of rain. We're going to let's just go ahead and chronologically cover that because that's just the basic forecast right now. We're going to see over the weekend 80% of us going to get a shower, maybe in a thunderstorm as we go through kind of that noon. So we're going to kind of put that out from noon to noon, those day parts from Saturday to Sunday. So I'm going to be calling my baseball coach, my kid's baseball coach. I'm going to call my kid's flag football coach or soccer coach, whatever it is, to see if the afternoon games have been canceled. So be prepared for that. That's why the weather impact alert, because the things are probably, especially the afternoon things, are probably going to get jostled around a little bit. And same goes for Sunday morning. I think you're going to be fine driving to church, but give yourself maybe 10, 15 extra minutes to get there just in case it's a little sloppy and you can maybe run a towel through your hair as you're going in. But and by lunchtime and later in the afternoon, things begin to taper off. And then we've got Martin Luther King Jr. Day, of course, and that's this front that's bringing us this rain. Right, is ushering in a pretty deep atmospherically layer of cold air. And that's the first part of what we're going to see Tuesday, Wednesday. There's a couple parts to this. And as I've alluded to in the past, it's like rolling a Yahtzee, all 5 dice, all 6s on the first roll. Because all the ingredients have to be right and they have to time up perfectly. And there's more than 100 ingredients, but the main ingredients, talking about timing, moisture, temperature, right? Wind conditions even are going to have to be just perfect for any sort of wintry precip to occur come Tuesday into Wednesday. And that first layer makes its way in Sunday night into Monday when we got some really cold temperatures.
And to talk about how just kind of rare it would be if we even got a wintry mix. I've been here since 2020. This is the first time I ever put a snow icon.
Yeah.
And I think the last time we actually had some sort of stuff was in 2018.
Yes.
And that was more so in the Waycross area. So it doesn't happen. Let's keep in mind this is still Florida. But even just a tiny bit can cause issues. You did mention Saturday and the Sunday. Do you want to quickly touch on this? Rain, maybe some ponding on the roads here. As Lou just mentioned, that could be taking some impacts for your plans here, especially Saturday evening. So give yourself plenty of time if you're out there driving. We're not worried about, crazy thunderstorms with damaging winds or anything like that. But it is going to be a sloppy weekend with some messy weather here. So let's talk about what everybody's here for.
Yeah.
What's happening as we go ahead in the next week. And this is something that Lou mentioned here, just a few miles of a difference with the low pressure area could make a huge difference. If it goes further towards the south, that's going to draw in more cold air. Further towards the north, we kind of stay in the warm sector of this.
Exactly. Okay, so, just basics in meteorology, when you're looking at a low pressure system, winds and flow is generally, if you're on the east side, you're getting winds, and to more of the south, you're going to get winds out of the south, to the north. So that counterclockwise flow, keep that in mind. So if that low is a little bit to the north of us, Robert's exactly, you're going to get warm sectored and you're going to get rain.
And one thing we have seen today, Lou, it looks like the low kind of right over Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And you can see here, northeasterly winds on Tuesday, so we get that north wind. And you see kind of the rotation just around Orlando based on the GFS, which would draw in maybe a wintry mix here Tuesday night into Wednesday morning.
Right. And so you got the ingredients, the GFS, the American model, the latest run is presenting. It presents the timing as far as the rain lining up with the cold temperatures, meaning and that low being a little bit further south, pulling in the right amount of moisture, but also pulling in those cold temperatures from the north. And your European computer model weather forecasting, as we look at the pink, that's an indicator. It believes, or at least the algorithm, the equation within it, is spitting out a wintry mix, taking all the environmental ingredients that goes into the front side of the equation, taking what it foresees is going to happen as far as your temperature and depth of the cold air as far as and precip mixing in, and it's showing a little, perhaps a flurry even as far as Charlton County, Camden County, and Glenn County, and that would be, and of course Ware and Pierce County because that's a little bit further north, but west of I-95 and inland southeast Georgia, we could draw that line.
And of course, the models are there, and we're going to talk about this in just a second, but you see how it just showed the snow over Jacksonville there for one slide of the model. Some of your weather apps, especially the standard ones on your phone, are going to just straight up show snow in that scenario. Remember, there is the nuance here. If you have warm air down near the surface, if you're right near the coast, that could modify things, and you'll get more of a cold rain or maybe even a little bit of sleet here. So you might see graphics like this. This is just showing the GFS snow forecast. And basically, this shows any chance of snow, even accumulation, less than 1/10 of an inch. Remember, if we do, let's say we got some white stuff falling from the sky, and it lands there, and it shows even the parts of eastern Duval in this particular graphic, it would melt almost instantly.
Absolutely.
The model is not going to pick up on that, but this still, with all of that said, Lou, this is the farthest south I've seen snow accumulation in some time on that particular type of model. So I think our chances are increasing of a less likely scenario like this and more kind of like this, where we're talking about that freeze line somewhere on the first coast.
Yeah. I think your big takeaway here is, so have we answered your question yet? Is it going to snow in Jacksonville? We haven't answered that, have we? And there's still like wobbling confidence in that right now. What we are getting more and more confidence in is we are confident that there is going to be an area of low pressure coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, and it's going to bring moisture, pulling in cold air. It is a greater than zero, in fact, probably a greater than 20% chance that we will see some sort of mix, even as far as Jacksonville, with freezing rain potential. Okay, so the freezing rain potential comes from just how cold it's going to be at the surface. If snowfall were to melt, but we're going to have had a couple of days worth of really, really cold temperatures with brief amounts of time in the 40s. So it would be very easy for surfaces, metal surfaces, bridges, overpasses, your secondary and tertiary roads, your dirt roads, that cool off quicker, and that get to that 32, that those raindrops would hit and freeze, and that presents travel problems. So we are confident in that Tuesday, Wednesday time frame that things are going to be a little choppier, a little less than convenient. The routines are going to get thrown off a bit, hence why we're putting that weather impact alert out now for Tuesday and Wednesday, so we're at least prepared. Confidence levels, as you just saw right there. Where Charlton, I think you hit it squarely on the head. System position is critical. Okay, miles matter. Whether that low, a situation where the low is skirting over I-4, for instance, you're talking about a pretty maybe serious situation. If it skirts over Jacksonville or a little bit further north, then it's more for the Carolinas, and even then they may escape some of this. So we look at the counties that really want to highlight now here, Robert, across the first coast: Ware, Charlton, Brantley, Pierce, and inland southeast Georgia. I think this is going to be the spot that, at least because it's a little bit further north, the infrastructure, you're talking about bridges and overpasses in rural areas that you might have some trouble traveling.
And I think even not just further north, but away from the coast, away from actually even just north of the Okefenokee. So we're talking about, you get away from some of that modifying of the water out there. So places like Waycross, Blackshear, definitely the highest chance, not only the freezing precip, but freezing in general. So let's say you get rain Tuesday night. but then it freezes overnight heading into Wednesday morning. So you don't get actual snow falling from the sky, but the water freezes on the ground. You get a black ice type scenario. So that's something as well, one reason why we have that weather impact alert in place, because these are things you got to think about. When we're talking about precipitation around the freezing point, and you're from up north, and I know we're going to see comments going, this ain't nothing. I'm from Wisconsin. Cheeseheads, just we do our own thing. I guarantee it, Lou, we're going to have those comments. Remember, this is Florida. We do not have salt trucks. Right. We don't have plows.
And we got a lot of bridges.
We got a lot of bridges, which freeze quick
around the area. The overpasses along the interstates, things like that. The railroad bridges up and over. So there, I think that kind of speaks to why the joke is always made. Gosh, if you're in the South and it even spits a little ice, the whole city's shut down. And the reason is, yeah, like you just said, the infrastructure is not there for it. So we're within that 3 to 5. We're getting close, right? So we've been watching this for a while. I mean, more than 10 days out, we've been looking at the computer model signaling a potential for this. And it harkens back to even back in December 30th when we were looking at the previous winter storm, when the signals were kind of alerting to a potential winter outbreak here in Southeast Georgia and Northeast Florida. That, of course, backed off as we got closer within that 5 to 7 to 3 to 5 day range. Those models backed way off and took the system up more towards Atlanta, across over to Columbia, South Carolina-ish. But now that we're here at Friday, we got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We're in the edge of that 3 to 5. You're starting to get better ideas of timing. The models have been fairly consistent, Robert, in my opinion. Looking at GFS and the Euro, those two that we're kind of signaling in on. So you get better. A read on more confidence, growing confidence in issues Tuesday, Wednesday.
Just bumping this ahead here.
Sure.
So now we're talking about, that chance of type of precip, but as I mentioned, there is any frozen stuff on the roads out there, and this is one reason why Tuesday over towards Wednesday we do have that weather impact alert. Of course, all sorts of impacts, but 70% of all snow and ice-related injuries are in automobiles. I can't stress this enough. If we get rain and it freezes, or even if we get snow and it melts on contact but then freezes on the ground, that could lead to some problems. If you look back to 1989, I'm not saying this is going to be that event, goodness gracious, but if we look at some of the impacts from there, traffic was one of the big ones, and just the roads were all shut down everywhere. Not saying that's going to happen here, guys. I'm just saying keep that in mind. The different types of warnings, I'm not worried about ice storm warning or anything like that, or blizzard, but just something to keep in mind is any type of freezing conditions. Lou, so I like this graphic because it shows you the layers of the atmosphere. And I keep coming back to this because I want people that are not familiar with winter weather to know the difference between rain, freezing rain, sleet, and snow.
Yes.
Of course, we know rain. Above the ground, everything is above 32 degrees. Snow, everything is below 32 degrees.
Yes.
So let's talk about sleet and freezing rain, because I think there's going to be a good portion of the first coast that maybe even like Jacksonville could see sleet, but maybe not snow. So what's going on here?
I love snowflake physics. Ice crystal physics is great.
It's great.
The facts are, if a snowflake melts, it won't remelt in the same dynamic. So if it melts, the properties change. And that's what you see with the sleet, right? So you melt briefly with that warm air, but there's enough space from where it had melted to get back down to the surface where it is below 32 degrees. So that snowflake essentially melts, becomes liquid, H2O, and then refreezes as what would feel like just a little shave of ice, which presents problems in and of itself. And then your freezing rain, so a much shallower level of cold air closest to the surface, but those surfaces, the grass, the overpasses that we mentioned, metal objects, things like that, like guardrails, handrails, like going down a set of stairs. You could, that's the type of thing I always think about, is those surfaces that are at 32, the super cooled water as it hits that surface, boom, right back from a raindrop into
And I
ice.
think some people don't realize that with freezing rain, when it actually touches the ground, the water itself is just at the freezing point, but it's not frozen yet. So it's
Right.
not ice. But once it hits that surface, it instantly freezes.
Right.
And that's why we get things like power outages, down trees. Let's hope that doesn't happen here. Freezing rain is, I would 10 out of 10 times prefer snow over freezing rain.
For sure.
It's a mess. So that's where we're going to be watching. And if you see us making that forecast, talking about, are you going to have freezing rain in your area? And we say you are, this mess. All right. So, yeah, hey, let's talk about these questions.
Yes,
Lou.
I like this.
This is Kathy from our First Coast News Weather Watchers page asking a legit question. I don't know what they're looking at, but what are we seeing here? Because her app on her phone says heavy snowstorms on Tuesday. So earlier we were showing the model, right, Lou? And at one point the model did say, we got snow over the first coast. But as we've been alluding to, there is so much nuance here. Sometimes these models don't handle snow over Florida very well because they're not built for it either. Remember, these are just guidance, right?
Yeah.
So you may see this on your phone. This is why if you're watching us right now, you're already taking the proper step of trying to get a little bit more educated on it. But just remember, the phone apps don't really handle this type of situation very great, does it, Lou?
100%. And then, the subtle nuance you're talking about. I mean, you're putting in zip codes, but a lot of times it's honing in on the main airport in the area where soundings are happening. And so, listen, I have an app. I've got the First Coast News weather app. I've got other, meteorological apps that I enjoy using. But again, you take it with a grain of salt. Some apps are going like haywire. Phone apps, but days ago, zeroing in on a worst case scenario type model signal. And that's, why Robert and Ross, Lee and Tim and I are here to hang with you.
Also got this question real
Show
quick.
me.
Are we going to see a true Alberta Clipper coming soon? I thought this was interesting because we hear the term Alberta Clipper, but that actually is a technical definition of a low pressure type track that originates out of Alberta. It clips parts of the United States towards the north. So we are not going to see, James, this is a good question. We're not going to see an Alberta Clipper here. It's just not in the physics.
Right.
We're more of just a cold front with a lot of cold air, and if we get enough of this precipitation mixed into it.
I like the term Gomex Clipper.
Gomex Clipper? Yeah, actually, let's coin that right now.
Let's
We're
get it
going to
in
write a book
textbooks.
on it and a paper.
I think we need a study. We'll do some peer-reviewed studies, Robert. You can be my peer, or I'll be yours, and we'll review it. Because lately, the last couple have been these low pressures getting geared up out of the Gulf of Mexico. That needs to be looked at, and it clips right on through the southeast and through Florida, and can wreak havoc then on the northeast ultimately as well. So things to watch.
Yeah, we have about 1 minute left
Yeah.
here. We're able to talk. I'm just trying to flipping through some of these.
For sure.
I think at this point, friends, Lou, if you're getting ready for this, I think it may be something like cleaning out your chimney.
Yeah.
It's something you can do days in advance in case the power goes out. You got somewhere to stay warm. But also, if you got a generator or something like that, if you don't have to be out and about Tuesday night and the Wednesday morning, maybe plan against that. Plan to stay home. I'm not saying, Lou, maybe we shouldn't not touch on this too much, but you keep an eye on schools.
Sure.
Right?
No, 100%.
Because there is a possibility of cancellations or delays and things like that. Not saying 100% it would, but there is definitely a possibility if this comes to pass, right?
I think we've spent the last 30 minutes kind of hammering it home. I think people are aware Tuesday, Wednesday is the day to watch, and we're going to continue to fine-tune, just like we do with hurricane forecasts. As we get closer and closer to an event, we fine-tune. We humbly submit that things will change. That's a part of weather forecasting, but it's our job to stay on top of it and bring you that latest information. So we're going to do that, but at least Tuesday, Wednesday, we're going to watch very carefully after this weekend's rain for just warm mitigation. Cold air is coming. Let's take care of our vulnerable people and our loved ones as well.
All right. Well, thanks for watching this.
Absolutely.
Continue to check back here at firstcoastnews.com for more information. I'll be live at noon. And, have a great day.